selfie tool. So today we're delighted to have two fabulous schools, and we have one of our speakers here today so far, and I'm sure Mark's going to turn up, but I just want to share with you so today we're going to talk about continuing professional development. And we have two schools, one from Scotland, Newbattle High School, and they are awarded the Digital Schools Award for Scotland, and they also achieved the European Digital Schools Award. So they have been working through their self-review frameworks over a number of years and continue to sort of reflect. And we're going to have some very interesting insights from Mark, who is the deputy head teacher there. And Mark really, I suppose, is going to reflect post-COVID how they have really had to sort of change and review how they approach CPD, making it more flexible and adaptable to teachers, but also perhaps looking at sort of new ways of looking at CPD with the advent of new technologies such as assistive tools. And this is really sort of, challenging the leadership team, but also, providing new opportunities for skills development amongst teachers. So we're going to hear from Mark in a little while, but first we're going to turn to Neil McLaughlin, who is the ICT coordinator in Muckross Park College in Dublin, which is just around the corner from me. And I actually was a pupil when Muckross Park had a junior school, which they no longer do, but a fabulous school, a very progressive school. And I know that Neil has some very interesting campaigns that they have been working on around CPD. And I think it'll be very interesting to hear from both Mark and from Neil in terms of some practical strategies, some interesting things that are happening around CPD. From these two exceptional mentor schools. So if you're happy, Neil, I will hand over to you first.
Thanks, Anna. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah. There might be a bit of background noise. We've just finished here, so at 3 o'clock on a Wednesday. So corridor is a bit messy. I've fortunate enough to have first years outside my door, so they're the noisiest. Okay, I will try and I'll try and share here. I have the presentation, I think, ready. Yeah. I'm just going to share my entire screen. It's probably the easiest. So now you can probably see yourselves, maybe.
There we go. That's come up now.
Okay. And you still see. So now you should see a full presentation slide, as it were. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
So I thank you, Anna, for the introduction. As Anna mentioned, I work in Muckross Park College in Dublin, and I'm the ICT coordinator. I have been for the last year and a half, or academic year and a half, and I've been involved in ICT in general as part of a committee and a previous job, previous life, I guess, way back. But I've been involved in sort of driving things digital in our school in recent years, or been part of a group that's been doing that. So I thought it was relevant to just give you a very brief background as to what, like, the school, the size of the school, and our sort of our ICT needs and the infrastructure that we have in place. We have up to a maximum of 720 students in the school, so that'll be 120 per year group. Typically, it's a little bit less than that, as some of our senior cycle might head on to growing schools or whatever. It depends. I think we have about 45 teaching staff, give or take, employed at the one time, and we're a non-fee paying school, reliant on Department of Education ICT grants. I threw that in there just because I'm sure different schools have access to funds, and it can be easier or more challenging for certain schools to have infrastructure set up for obvious reasons. I'm hearing a bit of an echo at my end. I'm not sure if that's just me, but um, anyway, we use the Google Workspace for education. I think that's the latest thing. It's been called various things over the years. I think that's what it's called now. So we're at Google School. Some listeners will be as well, or Microsoft. They kind of tend to be the two platforms. But that's what we use, and we have iPads in the school. Not every student requires an iPad, but back in 2018 we introduced iPads to teachers as a resource to try and enhance their teaching and learning and use them in classes and so on, and just improve and move away from a bit of chalk and talk, as it were. Then in 2019 we introduced two sets of trolleys, and then we had another trolley, and they all had 30 devices each, so they can be booked and moved around the building as and when required for use by the students. Very useful devices. And then we also have two computer rooms, or student computer rooms, where there's 30 devices in each. They're Windows desktop PCs where project work and whatever you might want to do can be completed. In 2023 we did a survey. I did that as part of my role, just to see were we actually using these iPads sort of 5 years later, because the feedback we were getting is that people just use them to kind of take the role, and we weren't using them for what they were sort of hopefully set out to be used for. And the feedback was as expected, and we weren't using them. So then we decided that we thought we might use Chromebooks, or at least we'll start introducing potential new digital devices. And so we set out. I got a couple of samples in from more than willing suppliers, and would have handed them out staff room during break times, and just kind of for people to get an idea of feel and would you use this. Then some teachers that were willing actually took them and used them, both to create content outside of class and use within class. And most of those would be teachers who'd be a bit more familiar with digital devices and they could get the most out of them. So we did that, and then we ordered 10 devices, and currently 10 or so, I can't remember exactly how many, but they're currently testing them with the possible view in the long term to maybe replace our iPads, certainly our teacher iPads. But anyway, that's a process that's ongoing. Each classroom has a Windows desktop PC and a projector, but we introduced, or we thought we'd introduce, these interactive screens, and that brand is Clever Touch, which we use. We researched different options. A few of us went to a showroom and got training on how to use these. We decided which was the best fit for our school, and over 2022-23 academic year, we introduced 7 of these based on whatever finances we had available. It is the hope, should we get more grants from the government, ICT grants, that we'll be using these. We'll be slowly replacing our projectors and having these in every classroom. So that's where we are at the minute, just in terms of our school and infrastructure. And I know that the theme, the feedback here is CPD related. I just want to give you an idea of what we had done before we took on Selfie, which I think everybody is familiar with on the call. Back in 2009, when we became a Google school, and we started introducing training for staff as to how to use those devices, and we did that during Crow Park hours. Now, for any non-Irish listeners, I'm not sure how to explain. I don't even know what Crow Park hours really are. I just do what I'm told. But the government, I think we are required as teachers to do additional hours outside of school time in terms of planning and well-being and training and whatever. So I think schools are free to use them as they wish, and a lot of our Crow Park hours, thankfully, have been put into CPD, and particularly in recent years into digital ICT related CPD. So we did that back in 2019. Then in March 2020, obviously the lives changed for everybody, and particularly in schools, or sorry, no more so or less so. But so it was all hands on deck, emergency meetings, and our ICT committee got together and we started creating videos as to how to use certain things and how we were getting on with our own classes, because so many of our colleagues would have been left behind, particularly those who would struggle with digital apps and technology and so on. So, but it wasn't just the ICT committee. A lot of our staff absolutely just threw themselves into it and offered help, and anything that they found were working were shared, either digitally, on our digital platform like our drives, or shared within live during meetings, or just emailed out as attachments and presentations or whatever it was. As a school, we thought that we all sort of dug in and helped each other, and it worked very well. And we continued to provide training. We identified certain areas that required particular, that all staff had to be good at least to survive, as it were, to a minimum extent, and we did that. We think then in September we got back. I think we were back in schools in September, and we delivered more of that Google suite, or the Google for Education training. But we offered different levels of that, because obviously some would have been very familiar with them and find their own way around them, and they can reap all the benefits. Other staff needed sort of beginner training, and we let staff identify that themselves, and then we offered to deliver. It was more refresher training, to be honest, make sure that everybody was up to speed, because we were using more of that digital platform because it was forced on us. I mean, it was one of the positives to come out of it, is that we all became a little bit more digitally upskilled, as it were, and we delivered that during lunchtime by various members of the ICT committee. And then in October, we got feedback from that training, and we identified 6 specific tools, software applications that a few of us found particularly beneficial over the previous 6 to 9 months since COVID started, and stuff that we would still continue to use while we're back to possibly blended learning, or whatever it might have been called at the time. But either way, these are stuff that we will always use. And I won't go into what those different skill sets were or the areas were, but within our ICT committee we identified them, and different people were going to deliver training in that, and that was to be done during 3 of these Crow Park hour sessions, outside of school hours but on site. I think they were on site, and crucially the staff chose which areas they wanted to do. So if you wanted to, for example, how to record yourself on screen and a solution to a question or whatever, you go into room A, or if you wanted to use some sort of an extension within Chrome for annotations or whatever it might be, you go into that room. Or if you just wanted to get more out of your iPad, whatever, and that's what you did, and it was delivered by our ICT committee. So that's what we did before we got in touch, or we were approached. I can't remember, I wasn't ICT coordinator at the time, but I believe we were approached by the team at Digital Schools and within Selfie, and we were chosen as a pilot school. I think the academic year was the 2020-21 year. I'm not sure if that was a pilot school in just Ireland or Europe. I think it was Europe. We were certainly one of the few schools in Ireland anyway. And as part of the Digital Schools, we were required to provide evidence of stuff we are doing well in terms of ICT in our schools. And within the ICT committee, we were assigned different areas. And some of you, I'm assuming, are familiar with this process. And that's just a screenshot on the left of a folder on our Google Drive, where different staff members were assigned to different areas, and we had to go and provide evidence in order to try and to prove that we were doing all these things, and hopefully to achieve our award. And we worked with all subject departments, so it wasn't just one person. For example, that's me up like NMCL, that's teaching and learning in the left hand corner. So I was doing teaching and learning, and what would I use, to what digital things did I use, but also what other the teachers from other departments use in order to enhance their teaching and learning. And I would have just collated a lot of evidence, popped it in there, and that was shared with the Digital Schools Awards team, and eventually we were awarded our award, I think in May 2022. Okay, as part of that, we Selfie was a huge part of that, and we did ours back in December 2020, and we had, that's just the amount or the turnout, and how many people actually completed the survey. All of our school leaders did. I don't know what 106% of our teachers, I don't know where that's coming from, but all teachers did it. And we had a good cohort. I mean, 84% return from students, which we thought was very satisfactory, and their feedback was crucial, very important. And I think everybody on the call have either completed Selfie yourself, or you're in the process of doing so. And I'll just give you just some feedback as to what the benefits that we got from it. CPD scored highly, and I'll talk more. I talked a little bit about that already, but I'll talk about why it seems to work well in our school shortly. But they were the scores we got. I can't remember what individual questions were underneath each of those sections, but they were high scores. But at the other end of the spectrum, which is a key element of Selfie, is to identify areas of that require work, and one of them was digital assessment, and that's the overall scores there, from based on 8 questions first for leaders and teachers, and then 5 for students. So sorry, that I can't remember where I got this from. This is part of a presentation, this element here that I gave to staff. I think it might be from the Selfie document itself, but in terms of what makes good use of digital tools and software in terms of assessment is where you try and mix things up a little bit and start to include digital technology-enabled software when you're actually giving feedback to students and assessing students. And that because we scored so lowly at that, both in terms of we're not doing it ourselves as teachers, and the students themselves didn't think that it was being used. This largely informed elements of our digital strategy and our SIP, or our school improvement plan, and has done ever since. So we would have identified this, I'm assuming, early in 2021, after we did the survey in 2020, late. And since then it has informed those plans. A particular example from within that assessment practice section was the lowest score that we got in terms of the feedback in the Selfie survey was that it was to do with students giving feedback to other students using digital technology. And some of you may never do that or never consider doing that, but we addressed it. So it was flagged by Selfie, and we addressed it. And we did a project. 2 staff and I, we tried it with the TY students, and they would have been given different types of work depending on which teacher they were with. And I think my group they had to do CVs, they had to create a CV using their computers, obviously, and then anonymously other students would, based on a good CV template that I would have given them, they would kind of critique it and give them feedback as to areas to improve. And we shared those results with staff, and both sharing the difficulties that we had throughout that process. I mean, we're trying to do something new. We're trying to introduce something that Selfie tells us we're not doing well, and that's why we did the survey. And there were challenges, but we shared that with the staff, and we would have the 3 of us that took part in the project would have learned from each other, and then we shared that with the staff going, watch out for this, you could try this instead, etc. Students, the feedback students gave us, I mean, I won't go into details, but they weren't comfortable really assessing each other. The anonymity part was difficult to try and from a digital sense, but we came up with solutions and workarounds, and then we encouraged staff to try it out, and we offered to help any who were willing to try it. And again, that was done as part of these Crow Park hours. It wasn't training as such, but it was more demonstration as to options out there for our staff. Most recently, this is a project, and you don't need to read all of it, but the heading there, assessment, feedback, and digital technologies, and the learning outcomes are on the screen. It's something that, and there's a link to the course there. I imagine this is only available within Ireland, but this is something that was directly connected to our results from Selfie, and also to our school improvement plan, our SIP. And therefore, we decided, or our SSS, that's our school self-evaluation, or our school improvement plan coordinator, she came upon this course and completed it, and then shared that information with the ICT committee. Then a couple of us from the ICT committee did it ourselves, and we decided to try and ascertain whether it would be worth the rest of the staff's time in completing it. It takes about an hour, and you can dig deeper if you wish and spend longer. But then we did, so we agreed as a committee with management that this course would be suitable and beneficial for everybody, and therefore we made it compulsory for all staff, and it was delivered last Wednesday. I think we were in the middle of it this time last week, actually, during co-park hours again, which so that was outside school time. All staff had to complete this online course, which is all about giving feedback to students using digital tools. And I would like to think that I'd be fairly good with computers and doing that myself. I know I don't do enough of it, but I learned stuff myself. There were things that I hadn't used before, and I found it very beneficial. And the feedback we got largely from our staff afterwards, that they felt the same. So very briefly to talk about other ICT CPD that we've done in the last sort of 12 months or so. Those screens, I mean, I have one behind me here and I use it, but I don't use it near enough. I'd say 5% of its capabilities. But we gave training or a demonstration on it, and we brought in somebody from an expert who had initially given training to a few of us before we bought them. And because we needed to get the teachers, we needed our staff to buy into them. We were encouraging them to book the room. We only had one or two of them at the time. We wanted staff to go there to try them out, to try and see the benefits, and they were a little bit reluctant and they didn't know how. But when we brought in an external sort of expert, he kind of wowed them with a lot of the features, and then that in itself then encouraged more teachers to give it a go. And that teacher buy-in, I'll talk about. I have a few summary points shortly where I talk about kind of the essential elements, the things that work in terms of CPD, but the teachers buying into it is very important. And we've also, that's just a picture from the internet to do with sort of digital annotation, where you can write on top of a PDF digitally, or you can add audio feedback, be it using the Google Suite. Also, you can like update something on your Chromebook that can be lively edited live up on screen behind you in the Clever Touch screen, and then all those edits that you make are automatically saved back to Google Classroom, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's all possible. It takes a bit of work, it takes a bit of practice, but we were just trying to show all staff that there are options out there, and there's better ways of doing things and better ways of sharing things. And we know that the students like having access to all this stuff digitally, and they can pull it out on their phones in the evening time and they can see, oh, there are the notes from Mr. McLaughlin's class today. I don't do near enough of this sort of annotation stuff, but my colleague in the ICT committee, he delivered that and showed its worth to everybody, and he has since been offering help and showing others how to do it kind of one-on-one. So it wasn't necessarily training for everyone, it was more demonstration as to what's out there and then offering training afterwards. So just to summarize a couple of key points that have aided the successful introduction or deployment of ICT related CPD in our school. You need a committee, obviously, and in most schools I'm assuming have an ICT related committee, and you also, we particularly in our school, and it's been the same in other schools I've worked in, but here I've noticed particularly so that staff are very much willing to help. There's that culture of you know, your time is always, you're always available, with most staff, anyway, not all. And support from management is absolutely paramount, and we've always had great support from management in terms of CPD. As I mentioned already, that using those co-park hours to upskill in various things, but particularly in ICT training, so they allow that. Also, if you wanted to go to some digital conference, or if I wanted to go off and get training in how to use Clever Touch screen or whatever during school hours, that they invariably are very supportive of that. And I think that's crucial in order for your own digital strategy to, and your aims and ambitions to be achieved. You need management behind you. We also have to remember all the time that this stuff is not for everybody, and the use of it is optional. Yes, it can enhance. It doesn't have to be the all or nothing. You've got to be digital. We know that it can enhance our teaching and learning. The evidence is there, and we just try to remember to. We're just encouraging teachers to try and find a blend of methodologies. But always remember, because we have found out that if you try and kind of throw it at them and force them to do things, that there's kind of been that negative approach to it initially. In terms of training as well, like, oh, I don't want to do this, I hate this stuff, it's not for me. So you need to remember that. Hence, so what we're aware of now, certainly with experience, is that getting the staff voice is essential. We do that, well, selfie is one way of doing it, but we do regular surveys using Google Forms, and we have just general discussions in chat rooms and whatever. Kind of our ears are always open. We have to identify what the needs are of the collective staff, individuals, departments, and then you also have to ensure that the staff are interested, or at least are willing to try out this new tech. So you need to effectively sell it to them. So that staff buy-in that I mentioned earlier is absolutely crucial. If you can show them the benefits, and just tell, you can't assume that they're going to read an email. If you get a chance to do it within a staff meeting to show them something, then that buy-in, you have a better chance of getting that buy-in and success. Because if they've expressed what they need and if they see the benefits, then they're more likely then to be properly engaging in training, or even train themselves. That's certainly our experience. And then only after you've done that, I recommend that you deliver or offer training, ICT related training. And ideally, if you can link it to your school, into policies within your school, such as your school improvement plan or school self-evaluation, that is easier to sell both to the staff and management, of course, so the management can get behind you and support you if you want to use ours. Okay, so I'm going to just quickly wrap up. That's everything there. In a recent ICT committee meeting, we discussed whether we will do selfie again. That's to be confirmed. We might do it. It's been, it's 3 years since we did it, and we might do it again and change the questions around. We'll see. But it certainly formed what we've done in the past 2 or 3 years from an ICT perspective, and we found it very beneficial. Okay, that's everything from me. And sorry, I kind of probably went on a bit there, but I'm guessing these slides will be shared. I'm not sure about my email address there, so if anybody would ever like to contact me at any stage, please feel free to do so. And if there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
That is fantastic, Neil. Really comprehensive, huge amount of work, and you can see that you've really tried to take a systematic approach using the data from your selfie. We are a little bit short in time. I mean, I would be really interested to hear whether you've looked at the selfie tool for teachers as part of the, as a school leader or as somebody leading ICT in the school. You're looking at the strategic overview, looking at sort of rolling out the training, but then individually, how does each teacher fare and how have they progressed perhaps, in their own CPD, and whether that selfie tool for teachers is something that possibly is another tool in your arsenal in terms of self-reflection and development. But and also I understand that there's going to be a new inspectorate approach for schools that have computing science as part of their curriculum, that there will also be a sort of an inspectorate which will look at computing science, but also at digital as part of what the school delivers, and whether that's something, I'm sure, I don't know in Muckross whether you have computing science, but that
we
certainly...
introduced, yeah, we started this year, actually. We introduced to fifth years. Okay. I'm not involved with myself, but yeah, it got the approval there, so it's a new subject. So it's certainly something that we'll be looking into into the years ahead.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I will move on to Mark, but as Neil said, he'd be very happy to take any questions And also, thank you for offering to share your email, Mark. If anybody wanted to contact you directly, I'm sure you'd be very happy to hear from them. But that was fantastic. Really appreciate you coming on and sharing that. And we will share Neil's slides on the website as well in the resources section, so you'll be able to follow up again. So thank you so much, Neil.
You're very welcome.
I'm very happy to hand over to Mark, and we probably have given you a small heart attack. Mark was in class, and you're very good to sort of come out, Mark, and to come on the call. I know we're already a little bit over. If people would like to hold on, Mark, you know, comes from Newbattle High School, a fantastic digital school, and very progressive. And we're going to hopefully hear from you, Mark, in terms of your approach to CPD in sort of a new world post-COVID.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, that's good, yeah. I did get that. So I had it in my calendar 4 o'clock, but we'll not dwell, we'll get going. And I looked at my calendar and it wasn't 4 o'clock, so yeah, but the class is gone now, so we're okay.
Thank you so much for coming on, Mark.
You just missed a standard deviation lesson, so this will be much more interesting, I'm sure. I'm just going to try and share my screen now, if that's possible. Share content. How is that? Is that working?
Yeah, we can.
Is that okay?
Yeah, lovely.
Okay, great. You move between windows and all the different ones. It's like between Teams, between
Yeah,
Google, between I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, so sorry. Right, I'll stop chatting and get to business. So my name's Mark Davidson. I am the deputy at Newbattle High School, and I've been lucky enough to be the lead for digital learning and digital curriculum over the last 4 or 5 years at Newbattle High School. And we've probably, like anybody, we've had a very up and down journey through COVID and the world, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But just probably some of the terms. And in Scotland, we have what's called a contract for teachers, a 35-hour a week contract. But within that contract also, there is a 35-hour yearly allocation that teachers need to undertake career-long professional learning. So if you see me calling it CLPL, the acronym, that's what I mean. And all teachers are asked to do that. In Scotland, schools are allowed to direct a portion of that time, depending on their own priorities. So that's again helped us a little bit in terms of where we're going. So I hope to give you a feel of how we've used professional learning and how we've used continuing professional development and a number of different strategies and workshops to deliver our own digital strategy. And with digital, it's never done, is it? There's always new things to do. You think that bit's great and you turn away and it's gone again. Always equate digital to a bit like a sandcastle. You're a small child, you build your sandcastle in the sea and you go, that's amazing. You turn away and come back and the tide's come and washed it away and you've just got the remnants and you've got to build it up again. So it's always about taking care and to try and deliver your strategy. At any point, just stop me, or just if you want to ask questions, feel free. So again, a bit of our context, we're a one-to-one authority, and we have got support from the authority in school half a day a week from a learning technologist who supports with our training as well as the stuff that I'll talk about that we do in school. So where were we between August 21 and August 22? So we come back from COVID. We were a bit different in terms of all our teachers were pretty engaged with the technology before COVID hit. So allowed us to just really hit the ground running and really get going with it's Google Classroom, but anything I'm talking about, it's totally platform agnostic. It's, you know, I'm not here to push any particular platform. We happen to use a Google Classroom, and that was great. Teachers were very confident in that. Pupils were confident in using it, so we didn't have the challenge of training staff and pupils in using the platforms. However, I don't know what other people saw, but when we came back, there was almost like a backlash against digital from our teachers, and a lot of teachers decided that they weren't using digital in the classroom at all, despite developing and honing these skills. So what we were seeing in our classrooms was a really inconsistent use of digital from your, as I always call, your jazz hands digital leaders who are doing all sorts of amazing things, to somebody that quite a few teachers are saying that we've had enough of digital, we're not using it anymore. That was our challenge. I suppose the work that we did with the Selfie and the work that we did with the Digital Schools Award, that really helped us crystallise approaches and strategies on how we were going to deal with that inconsistent use. And I'm sure, speaking with other school leaders, that's a thorny issue, as we call them, for many. We were also seeing that the pupils and teachers were not utilising the assistive technology, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. And we had a wide range of curricular pathways. We were lucky, really lucky, more than one computing science teacher, technology teachers, engineering classes, but the kids just weren't picking the courses. So that was another challenge that we had as well. I'm really going to focus on the top two this time. If anyone wants to talk about the other ones, we're still grappling with the STEM subjects, but we're getting there. But I'm really going to talk about the top two and how professional learning and teacher development and was absolutely critical and key in helping us move forward these areas. So our focus at 2022-23 was really focus on a consistent approach, directly linked to learning, teaching, assessment. That was our main focus. We wanted to bring everybody up. It wasn't to stymie the people that were doing great stuff, and I'll talk about how we managed to capitalise on the work that they did to really help us move forward with our digital strategy. You might notice there's no digital there in the words learning, teaching, assessment, and that's a key aspect for us at Newbattle. Now, that only comes after a little bit of maturity, I would say, in terms of your digital journey, but you remove the word digital because digital really permeates almost everything we do in schools now. But knowing that the digital tools that you're going to use to enhance the learning, teaching, assessment were the key thing that we wanted to think about. So for our learning, teaching, assessment policy, when we went to that, we didn't write a new digital learning policy. We made sure we referenced digital and digital tools within our learning and teaching assessment policy, but we didn't have two policies. And that's something that's been worked quite well over the years. I mean, if you're like our school, you're lucky if you're getting your teachers to read more than 2 or 3 policies and know them well. And often they're your sort of behavioural policy, your learning and teaching policy, and maybe another few others. We really tried to create this sort of digital culture. So everything connected to learning, teaching, assessment went onto our we call it our Newbattle Learning Portal. It's just an internal website. It's got all of our pedagogy, our practice, our vision, everything was there. So it was all in a one-stop shop. A lot of the stuff there isn't particularly digital, but it was again just starting to try and create the digital first approach. One of the issues that we had, and I always find when you've got your reluctant learners, and I mean reluctant learners, I'm talking about your teachers that are reluctant, your teacher that's just kind of, it might be a really effective teacher, but this is the way I'm doing it and I'm not changing. So we had to really work on the why. The why for these teachers, and the why for us is quite easy really now once you're on your journey with digital technology, and it's assistive technology. If you're not using digital, the power of assistive technology is so strong with the digital. If you're not using digital, how are you then managing to differentiate, meet the needs of your 30, 32 learners in your classroom? And the answer is you can't meet the needs of those learners in the same way as if they were using digital. So we really focused on a couple of key tools. One of them was Read Write, and another was the assistive features of the Chromebook that we used quite a lot. And those were the two things. So we had a lot of conversations, a lot of discussions, asked our faculty leads to really get into the nuts and bolts of the why. And we came out the other side where I think everybody was in agreement that there isn't a substitute for the assistive technology anywhere else if you start using the digital technology. So that led us on to a consultation policy with all our staff, and we called that Digital First. I'm not going to go into all of the nuts and bolts because I know we're really wanting to look at the professional learning and how that worked. But it was quite a low bar, the Digital First approach, but it left lots of opportunities for people to be creative and develop what they wanted to do themselves. However, it was a minimum expectation of you're using the digital platform of the school. Your slide decks, the resources are all digital, because if they aren't, the young person then can't utilise the assistive technology. So that was two quite simple parts. Then the next commitment we were asking staff to make was, over a period of time, really be trained and competent in the platform. The digital platform for us, it was a Google Classroom, but also to really invest some time into the idea of the assistive technology. So to get used to the tool that we use, read-write, but there's all sorts of other different tools depending on what platform or what device you're using. So really focused on learning how to use your platform properly, and thinking about the assistive technology and engaging in training around that. And the last one we have in Scotland, what's called practitioner inquiry, and all teachers are expected, as part of their professional learning, to take part in a practitioner inquiry, looking at a small little bit of practice on a sort of quite a low-level research-based approach. And we asked all staff that were doing that, we gave them school time, whole school time, across the school. But part of the nuance to that was, if appropriate, could you really try and consider a digital tool that might enhance your practice in some way? So that left it wide open. And could it be questioning? Could it be formative assessment questioning? Could it be feedback to the learners? Lots of different areas within our own learning and teaching toolkit that gave people a chance to sort of dig in for themselves. And I've got to say, some teachers didn't do that. That was fine, but the vast majority of teachers began to go on a little journey themselves on how digital could enhance something that they were maybe doing already. I'll just stop there. Is there any questions that anyone's got?
No, I think you can keep going, Mark.
No problems. Okay, so how do we go about the professional learning? How did we go about the training? And for me, after the experience of pre-COVID, we did a lot of in-person, but that's really resource heavy. And you need the staff to be off, you need the people, the experts to be there, and that wasn't post-COVID how we were going to do it, because again, everybody was a little bit more used to this idea of anytime, anywhere learning at their own pace. You know, there is, I think, I don't know about you guys, but from our younger teachers, there's a less of a, you're in school from 8 o'clock till 6 o'clock, you maybe leave when your lesson's finished, go home. We've got a flexible working time agreement that can be used like that. And our younger staff especially use that a lot more. But that doesn't mean they're not working, they're not planning, they're not training. But we just thought we would be able to give them the ability to learn anytime, any place. And what I would say is, you know, we've got Google stuff there. However, for all the platforms, your Apple Educator, you've got your Windows badges, so your Microsoft badges, really dig into them, because the commercial platforms, the resources around that's great, and they're really, really keen to support. And getting the badges was something that our staff really liked. You know, you literally get a little badge at level 1, and we asked all of our staff to try and commit to that, and that's quite a basic level. We provided quite a lot of different ways of doing that. We had a website that was connected to developing, so you could go and look if you wanted to know how to give feedback using Google Classroom or a Word doc. You can click that part on the website. There was also a more structured set of tasks called Workspace Skills that staff could go through and gain little badges moving towards being a certified educator. And we also did in-person events and webinars on certain aspects. That was really good. That got a lot of our staff engaged and working through there. We aimed for everybody. I'd say currently we've got, out of our staff, about 50 or 60. We do have a high turnover as well. So staff every year, we're probably a turnover of about 20–25% of staff. And, you know, it's what we ask all our staff to do when they come to Newbattle now, is engage in this part of their training for their professional learning. Again, Microsoft and Apple, they all do these kind of events, and really you can go for a reference school for Google. And again, as part of our work with Digital Schools Award, as part of our work with the Selfie, the reference school was just building culture within the school. So you're not doing your professional learning, or you're not doing your training or your CPD out with the school. You're seeing, okay, the digital world and the digital learning really everywhere you look within the school, and the culture in the school. We don't just go for digital awards. We always like to develop awards. And some people go, but yeah, you're just gathering badges, and that's absolute. If anyone's done your Digital Schools Award or your Selfie Award, that's the absolute opposite of what it is. It's about a leader's journey, taking you through planning how you're going to implement your strategy. And today the key part of that is the training and the learning for your staff that goes around about that. But what my argument would always be is, be really clear that your strategy, the training that you're focused on, is going to deliver your strategy, deliver your aims, deliver what your improvement plan. This is talking from experience. Previously, I've gone for a scattergun approach. Not much sticks. You get staff in your school that become really good, and you get staff at your school that disengage and are left behind, and then nothing really makes an impact. Whereas when you focus on a couple of areas, for us it was the platform and the assistive technology, we are seeing impact. We're gathering data about impact, and we can use that to support our self-evaluation or improvement. Our inspection visit that we just had before the holidays as well. I'm still alive from that. So I suppose the key part of this, though, is the biggest change in our school, the biggest impact that we've seen in our school is the read, write and assistive technology. We've gone from so I don't know if your own local authority, you go and you, if a learner has a particular need that can be met through digital, then previously we would go to the local authority and request an iPad or a Chromebook. When we went one-to-one and really focused our efforts on training the teachers and training the learners on how to use the software, we've reduced our requests for additional support by 90%. 40% of our learners report that they use the assistive features of the technology in their class. So that just to me really helped in terms of showing impact to the rest of the school leaders, our middle school leaders and our teachers. So now it's in our induction programme that anyone that starts in the school has to have the one-to-one learning on assistive technology, and then they're given the resources they can go and learn any time in any place. But we've got to keep doing that. If we had, for instance, for the last 2 years not focused on the assistive technology aspect, I would say 40% of the teachers would already be behind and not up to date with the training that they required. So it's this constant cycle of learning. What's lovely about the Digital Schools Award, and what's really nice about some of the other commercial providers, is that where your staff are flying, where they're doing some great things, they can start to provide the training. So we have done a lot of training on a lot of different things. So provider led by us sometimes, but then workshop led by our own staff. So they used things like using short response answers for formative assessment, audio for feedback to learners, using carousel for differentiation. These are just ones I'm rhyming, there's a lot more. So our staff have started running the seminars and the webinars and the classes to allow and to support our professional learning and our practitioner inquiry. So it kind of comes full circle. You get, the Digital Schools Award supports and celebrates your practitioners who are really flying, but it also really looks at how are you supporting your staff, what's the professional learning programme looking like, and the professional learning to get to that baseline, but also to let people thrive and grow, I think is really important. So having that flexibility. I think that's me finished. I will stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Mark. If anybody has any questions for Mark or Neil, we'd be delighted to take them now. Or Neil and Mark, if you want to throw your email into the chat, I'm sure people might like to get in touch with you directly as well. And I know we've sort of slightly gone over, but that was so worthwhile. Obviously, you're a fabulous ambassador, Neil and Mark, for the programme, and I think I'm delighted to hear that you have found the Digital Schools Awards as support as digital leaders in your school for the development of whole school approaches. I think, Mark, in particular, some of the examples there that you were talking about, if we look at the OECD and UNESCO reports recently, which really sort of tried to draw out, sort of the impact of technology in education. And I think they had agreed that where it is used effectively, it can make a positive impact. And in terms of those assistive technologies and in terms of the learner experience, through the education system, how important it is that there is a whole school approach to CPD. It really starts and ends with the teacher, and to have that learner experience through the years in school, that every teacher has the ability to support, all learners through whatever means that may be, whether it's assistive tools or, tools that would allow pupils to access education, even if they can't attend school directly. So there's so many aspects in terms of, where CPD has to come first and foremost. And I really appreciate as well, talking about different maturity levels. I think for us, the Digital Schools Awards recognises schools at all levels of their journey, and that's just really important. So whether you're starting off with your first selfie and you're looking at CPD as an area for development, that the programme can support you in that, or if you're more advanced. So I think both schools have so much to contribute. I found incredibly interesting in terms of what you both had to contribute there. So I don't know if there is any questions. No, I think just basically to say thank you again for your time. We will share all of the content from today and a recording of today's session if anybody wants to look back on it. We will, just so you know, I mean, Mark, I think you're already involved in a pilot that we're running in Scotland, which is around an educator award programme. And yeah, so we are hopefully with the evaluation of that pilot due in around the April-May timeframe, we would hope that that will be an extension of what we can support schools on, which is all around the digital journey for teachers. And, looking at the different pathways. So for some teachers, it's about the basic and essential digital skills. For other teachers, it can be around that influencer role where they're perhaps working in clusters or supporting a collaboration, and, recognizing the skill sets, the unique skill sets that teachers contribute and offer in those environments, and also teacher leaders. So people like yourself, Mark and Neil, who are leading ICT within the school environment, developing the strategy and the policy area, and again, giving recognition and support and scaffolding in terms of your professional journey. So Mark, obviously, we'll be working with you on the pilot of that, and hopefully that's something that we'll be able to talk more about, in the new academic year as an additional extension to the programme. Well, with that, I just want to say thank you again for everybody for joining today. It's really great to see you here. And our next session is in a couple of weeks' time. I think it's on assessment, but you will be receiving an email from us, an invitation, and we hope we will see you there again. So have a lovely evening. Keep up the fantastic work, and we'll chat to you soon. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks, Mark.